Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're expanding on the chatbot from the last two videos. So what I've included in this update, I've used the translator, language detect, I've imported the random library, and also NLTK. And NLTK is a natural language toolkit. It's a Python package that does natural language processing, or NLP. So let's dive into this. For all the project updates, I've had to include how much time I've estimated and how much actual time it took to code. This time I anticipated about 4 hours, but I spent about 2 hours today trying to implement tkinter and ended up having some problems and dropped it for today. I think what I'm going to have to do is start over with tkinter from the start and then build in the code. One of the things that I ran into was I was having the tkinter window, and I also had a Windows command or a command line window, and it was alternating back and forth between the two. So instead of wasting a couple more hours trying to troubleshoot it, I ended up doing the NLTK implementation instead. So as you can see, for NLTK, there's these 4 downloads. So first is the punct tokenizer model. It's useful for sentence segmentation, such as text parsing and machine translation. Next is the average perceptron tagger. This is good for adding grammatical tags, such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, for any of the words in the text. Max ENT any chunker. This download is it stands for maximum entropy named entity chunker, and this is a name entity recognition, NER, and this is good for identifying things, any kind of entity such as a person's name, a location, organization, or whatever in the text. So it ends up chunking up named entities in the text. And then finally, words. This is a download for the list of words that NLTK uses for various language processing tasks. It contains a list of a lot of common English words that can be used for tasks like spell checking, text analysis, and other text processing tasks. So I have a few functions for tokenizing the sentences, tokenizing the words, extracting entities, and then I get into the user profile, student and guest, like the last time, so I won't cover that. You can see that in the previous video. And then I modified the process input, so there's still the section using TextBlob, and then there's another section below that for NLTK. And what's interesting about that is, depending on what I say to the chatbot, depends on a different response. So let me continue with the code, and I'll explain that when we get to the demonstration part. Then we process the sentence, and then the identify intent, that's the same. Generating response is the same. And I took out the sentiment analysis for now. I think when I redo the code with tkinter in a future edition, that I'll put that back in, but it'll probably run in the background. I may have it show initially weighted responses and then take that back out and hide it. So in Raza chat, there's a way to show like I think they call it debugging mode, where you can see the responses as they're happening. And how they're weighted as an extra line. So next is the translator. In this case, I had a little bit of trouble with it detecting a general, like any language. It for some reason would detect the language, but it would repeat back the same language rather than translating it. So when I specifically told it from French and then to the destination language, English, it worked perfectly. So that I'll fix that later, but at least for the demonstration, it works fine. And then there's random responses, and that uses the random library. So it'll offer all kinds of different responses. And it's another thing that's kind of interesting. This is a very, very, very simple version of the Raza chat, where Raza has all these cases. In this case, it's just one little section of the code, whereas in the other, in that program, the large package, there's an actual file that had, well, multiple files actually, that have all kinds of different responses, and depending on what you have to change, like if you change one thing, you have to change another file. I can go into that in a separate file, in a separate video, but let's keep moving on. The main loop is still the same, except for passing at the end, and then the student profile is the same, student guest profile, and then the initiating at the end. So let's get into the demonstration. So NLTK starts right off the bat by downloading those 4 packages. And then I'm going to kind of blow through the student guest part because we already went over that in the last video. So I'll say Mike, and then, oops, I'll say that I'm 18 or 19. Okay, so now I'm going to say hello, and it just says, one thing that's a little bit different is it says, it repeats back what I say, and then it says the response, the random response. So it says, now this is the part that's interesting. If I say, how do you feel, without a question mark, it'll, in this case, it gave me a different response earlier. It says, how do you feel, and adds the question mark and does the And if I say, how do you feel, with a question mark, it says, I'm sorry, I'm just a simple chatbot and I can't answer questions. So why the difference? The TextBlob, or the user intent, let's go back to the beginning up here. My stomach's growling. So the identify intent from using TextBlob is generating the response for the second part with the so the where was that? Okay. So the difference here is that the generate response is using TextBlob to determine the identifying the intent. So depending on whether it's TextBlob, TextBlob says, sorry, I'm just a simple chatbot, whereas NLTK says it generates the random response. So you've got 2 different cases, and it depends on which section of code is being initiated by NLTK or TextBlob. And that's something that you can very easily work around so that if you're using sentiment analysis, or if you're using user intent, you can base like which generated response do you want. So let's take another example. I'm going to grab a little snippet. My stomach keeps growling. I'm going to grab another snippet of text from this website, and it's in French. I hit enter, and it does the translation automatically. So here's French text, and then it says, you said, my name is Hugo, and I'm 16 years old, blah, blah, blah. And then the chatbot responds with a random response, So that, in a nutshell, is what this program does, and it still does all the other things. So if I say menu in lowercase, it continues. If I say exit in lowercase, but if I hit exit in uppercase, then it does the actual exit and ends up leaving the program. So that covers everything for this. So what we went over as a summary is we've got the translator, TextBlob, detect, random, and NLTK. So we have 5 libraries that we're using, and this is way more than what was needed for this particular assignment. So I'll just leave it there, and then I'm sure I'm going to have another update here shortly. So thank you for watching. Hit the like button, and I will see you all next time.